Hello there, welcome to Cartooning with Paul. Today I'm going to show you how to draw Jack Skellington. So come on, let's get started. Okay guys, well, this character has been highly requested, so you've asked for it. There are other videos out there that show how to draw Jack with the finish line as the first line you put down on the paper, which is fine. You know, some people are showing you how to draw with the Sharpie from the get-go, and that works for them. But I'm going to show you an easier way of keeping him on model, and we're going to start with pencil, all right? And at the end, we'll do some finish line work. But for right now, let's grab that HB pencil lead and let's go to town. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to start with that circle. Okay? I'm going to draw the circle about this big on the paper. All right. Now, when we start off Jack Skellington's head, his head is not a perfect circle. Okay. So let's draw him. I'm going to draw him from the side. It's a more interesting perspective. So we're going to draw in that vertical axis line right down there like that. And we're going to draw in his horizontal axis right here in the center. Just like so. All right. Now his eyes are about 1/3 of the size of the head. So I'm going to draw in a line right up here just to show me how big the eyes are going to be. Now I mentioned that his head is not a perfect circle. So what I do is I like to cut into the circle a little bit. So his head, while very round in nature, it is not a circle. It's a little warped, just like so. His mouth is going to go here, so from where his mouth goes, we're going to cut in, just like this. See, that to me is a good shape for Jack's head. Okay, now what I do is I go back to where the eyes are going to go, and I'm going to draw in a little hook shape like this, and I'm going to keep this distance from the eye to the center line in mind when I draw in the other side of the eye like this. Now it's a hook shape like this. This eye is really close to you. This eye is to the side a little bit, so we want to make sure that this shape here is mirrored on this side of this line, right? Let's pretend that this is a mirror. And whatever we do on this side, we do on this side, but you want to make sure that the head is rounded, right? So because it's rounded, we're going to straighten out that line ever so slightly. Now I'm going to go back to this eye, and I'm going to make sure that it's nice and wide on the bottom here, right about here, and then on this part of the eye, we're going to come up, just like that. Now, depending on his expression, these eyes will change shape, right? But you want to make sure that you keep it wider down here than up here. Okay, and then on this side, that'll just take up the rest of that line there. Just like that. I may alter this later. Let's see. All right, now we've got his nose, right? His nose will come out a little bit. So when we draw in the nostrils, I'm going to draw in one line like this. We're going to draw in an upside down tear shape like that. And then we'll draw another one on this side like that. Now, because we're dealing with a Tim Burton design, these nostrils don't have to be the same size, the same shape. You can make one a little taller than the other. It's up to you when you're drawing, but we're going to keep this one to model so you guys can learn how to draw it, and then you can learn how to play with it later. Now his mouth will come right about here. And we've got a pensive looking Jack right here. What you want to remember in drawing his mouth is the center of his mouth curves downward a little bit. And then when you get close to his eyes, that's when they turn upward, like this. He smiles nice and big. And I'm going to give him his laugh line there. Okay. And there we go. There is the crux of his head shape. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit. Just like that. Okay, now one thing about Jack is even though he is all bone, right? He has a very pliable skull. So even though it's bone, it moves like rubber. So he has these tops of his eye sockets here, and they are able to move with his eyes. So you got to remember that he has that brow there. And with his teeth, you can keep them in line, but you'll find that the company, when doing a lot of the merchandising, they'll make crosses, they'll jag these teeth all over the place, and that's fine. Feel free to do that as you want. But here we go. We've got his head in place. Let me just shade this in a little bit. I think he's looking pretty good so far. Okay, now if we want to do his neck and his shoulders, which I kind of feel like doing right here, what you want to do is make sure that that neck starts off a little thick, and then it'll taper in and get thinner down at the bottom. Okay, I'll put this line in here just as a shoulder line for reference here. And what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to give him his chest shape. Now his torso shape is like a rounded upside down triangle. But because he's facing this way, I'm going to barrel it out a little bit like this. It looks kind of like a shield shape here. And then when we get down in here, we're just gonna give him that stomach area. All right, now when we draw in his jacket shape, we're gonna mimic this shape a little bit. I'm gonna bring down a shape like this and a shape like this. Now Jack has a lapel to his jacket. Now this is a jacket, right? So they're gonna button here. And it's gonna come down like so. Now for his lapel, what I like to do is I like to draw it in a shape like this, and then I'll come back in and I will make that little cut in it just like that. I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to make sure that it's nice and even, just like that. Now Jack has shoulders that come out like so on either side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take his hand, I'm going to put it on his hip. So I start the hand here, and then that's where I use it as my guide for his arms. Just really roughly at first, and then I'll go back in and I will thicken out his sleeve a little bit. And then under that is his shirt, his cuffs to his sleeve. And then I'm just going to roughly throw in some bony fingers, just like this. Okay. Now on the other side, I'm going to mimic it just for demonstrational purposes here. Let's see. Got his hips, but his pants don't separate until right down here. Okay, so I've got this hand in here, these bony fingers like so. But now I'm just going to mimic the same angles here. Okay. Give him his shirt sleeve like that. And then just bow out a little bit for his jacket sleeve. Okay, now we're missing one more thing, and that is his tie. Jack's bow tie is a bat. So we've got a bat head here that's an upside down rounded triangle. Some bat ears like this. And little cat eye type shapes for the eyes. And then when drawing in the wings for this bat, did it in the wrong order here. The middle line of the three is the longest. And then we'll cut in these scallop shapes, just like that. Just like that. My bat wings are a little on the cartoony side for this. I know I wanted to keep it screen accurate, but it's not where the drawing ended up, so sorry about that. But it'll give you a good idea of where to go from here. Okay, so there you go. There's Jack. So now let's give a nice polished finish line to this. I'm going to grab my Copic Black. So when doing in your line work, keep in mind the marker I'm using right now is an alcohol-based marker, so it dries quickly. If you're using a marker that doesn't dry quite as fast as this, you'll want to give that marker time to dry before you put your hand on it, or try to color it. I sometimes will fold another piece of paper and put it underneath my hand so I don't smear the color. There's nothing quite as frustrating as doing a nice finished piece and then forgetting that the ink is still wet, and then you smudge it. Another thing you'll want to keep in mind is to vary the thickness of your line work. Oftentimes I will do a thicker outline around the character than I will with the details on the inside of the character. I will draw a nice smooth line for the face, but on the outside of his head, I might make it a little thicker. It just makes for a more interesting and professionally polished looking drawing. Okay guys, well there's Jack Skellington. Hope you enjoyed drawing that with me. If you did, I've got a nice Hatbox Goes tutorial up here for you. As we're gonna get closer to fall, I've got some more Nightmare Before Christmas ideas, as well as some Disney villains we're gonna dive into. So stay tuned. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you know when I drop my next video. And leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, and thanks again for watching. We will see you later. Now Jack Skellington is not. Now Jack Skellington's head is not a. Now Jack Skellington's head is not a. Now Jack Skellington's head is a circular shape, but now Jack Skellington's skull is not a. Wow, why am I having a hard time saying this? Perfect circle, perfect circle, perfect circle, perfect circle. Now Jack Skellington's head is not a. Now when starting off Jack Skellington, we have to remember he is not a perfect circle. Well, I cannot talk today. Woo.